right, shalom, shalom. This is your brother Yashimai from the GMS Atlanta camp. Before I get into this message, all praises, all glory, and all honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kakadash, and double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who will and teach well. This is going to be hopefully a short lesson, and I just wanted to parallel a couple of scriptures from the Sermon of the Mount and link them up with Isaiah 61. First and foremost, we know that salvation was always and only for Israel, man. Scriptures show us this. And, as every now and then, as I'm sure brothers can understand, as we read the scriptures, we'll come across a verse that we had always heard, but now that verse means so much more with the understanding of what the scriptures are really saying, man. And one of the most famous scriptures, especially in the Christian church, is Matthew 5. It's known as the Sermon on the Mount, and the Christian understanding, which, and I say understanding very loosely, but the Christian understanding of this is that basically it's pretty much cut and dry. Those that are mourning are going to be saved. Those that are poor are going to be saved, but that's not what it's saying, man. See, all scripture was inspired only for the Israelites, because salvation was only for the Israelites. It's not basic and flavorless like these Christians would have you to believe, man. And so we'll see how many scriptures we get. I think I kind of want to just get the first three scriptures again, because we can pretty much line it up with Isaiah 61. So let's get, matter of fact, let's just start on Isaiah 61. It says, the Spirit of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, is upon me, because the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, has anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. All right? So that's also right here in the Sermon of the Mount, right here, verse 5. All right? All right? And then, but continuing on, it says, He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. And real quick, that last one, to proclaim liberty to the captives, man. This is one of them scriptures that, though I had heard, through like a jailhouse ministry, they would come back and say, man, Jesus wants you to leave here, man. He wants to free you, and like they would use it, but say, we're here to proclaim liberty to the captives, but that's not what it's talking about here. Isaiah 61, for the context, is Isaiah comforting the southern kingdom through the Spirit of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh. Isaiah was comforting the southern kingdom of the mercy and grace that Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh would have on them after the Babylonian captivity, man. Because the captives mentioned here are the Israelites, man. The northern kingdom was taken captives by the Assyrians, and the southern kingdom was taken captives by the Babylonians, all right? But let's get the first one here, and let's get the word brokenhearted, okay? Because we're going to link that up with, let me just make sure here. We're going to link that up with the poor, right? That's the first one? The poor in spirit, yeah. So let's get the word brokenhearted, all right? Boom, boom. Brokenhearted. All right, come right here. Okay, so that word is shabar, okay? And that word shabar means to break in pieces, right? To crush, man. All right? And so the word shabar means crushed, man. So who was crushed? Well, in Isaiah 61, this was going for the southern kingdom. The head tribe being Judah. All right? And we can line that up. Lamentations 1 and 15 right here. Matter of fact, I got to get that over here on the blue letter, because we got to get that word just to show that it's talking about the same group of people. It says, the Most High Yahweh Yahushai has trodden underfoot all my mighty men in the midst of me. He has called an assembly against me to crush my young men. The Most High Yahweh Yahushai has trodden the virgin, the daughter of Judah, as a winepress, man. So this was the judgment. The Babylonian captivity was judgment for the southern kingdom. And when you go into that word, it's because it's talking about crushing the daughter of Judah, It's the same word here. It's shabar, man. It's the very same word, man. So the southern kingdom was broken to pieces when it went from ruling to being, to having our temple sacked, to having the city destroyed, to having the kings taken captive, to uh, 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 to uh, Babylon, right? And this word shabar is a direct synonym of what Yahushua was saying in verse 3. Okay, let's get Matthew 5 verse 3. Okay, because keeping in mind that shabar means broken to pieces, man, which we know that's what the southern kingdom was. Verse 3, Matthew 5 verse 3 says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So again, the Christian understanding, quotation marks for theirs, but the Christian understanding here is that anyone poor, all right, is basically can be saved. So even if you gambled your life savings away, even if you smoked your life savings away, just because you're poor, even though you caused yourself to be put in that situation, just because you're poor, you can go to heaven with white Jesus. But that's not what it's talking about, man. See, all these scriptures, again, all these scriptures were meant for Israel. It was the hope of Israel. Okay, so we established that Shabar was broken to pieces, just as Judah was broken to pieces by being taken into captivity. So in verse 3 here, when it says the poor in spirit, that word in the Greek is tokos, reduced to beggary. Okay, lowly afflicted, it says, destitute of wealth. And again, because Yahweh when he was on the earth, who was he talking to? Mainly the only Israelite tribes around, though there was some small amount of the northern tribes. The majority of the Israelites around during the time of Yahweh was the southern kingdom, because the northern kingdom had already been taken by the Assyrians, and then had gone into the fourth part of the world, also known as the Americas. So Yahweh here is saying those that were in a lowly, afflicted, destitute state, which we just read, Lamentations 1 and 15, the southern kingdom, right? Yahweh was talking to the same people that Isaiah was talking to, because during the time Judah, the southern kingdom was being occupied by the Roman Empire, man. All right, because I mean, you can't tell me that verse 3, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You can't tell me that Yahweh was calling the Edomites, the Romans, broken, poor in spirit. They weren't poor in spirit then, because they were in their place of authority, man, and they are in their place of authority today, man. Who's low and destitute right now? Verse 3 is talking about the Israelites, because not only was the southern kingdom low and destitute during the Roman occupation of Yahweh's time, but the same Israelites are also in a low and destitute state today. And the revived Roman Empire today, they're not in a poor in spirit of mind. I mean, according to them, this is the golden era for them, man. All the freaking Hispanics are being deported. Verse 3, all scripture was meant for the Israelites, man. Let's get the next one. It says, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Okay, and while we're here, we'll just get the word mourn in the Greek. And that word is pantheo, and that's to mourn. All right, but I want to go and get the word mourn in Isaiah 61, because if it was used, I believe, in verse 1. Isaiah 61, no, verse 2, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Most High Yahweh Yahushai, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. So what's the day of vengeance of our God? The day of vengeance of our God is taking down our enemies. But let's go into that word mourn here, because who was mourning and why were they mourning? All right, let's get it right here. Comfort, mourn, right here. That word is a ball. Okay, to be mourning for the dead or because of calamity. So again, Isaiah 61, the southern kingdom was, I mean, yeah, you can say that they were mourning for the dead because a lot of the southern kingdom was killed by the sword, but they were mourning because of the calamity. Let's get what was it? Jeremiah 14:2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up, man. So those that are mourning, we'll go back into the blue letter here. Blessed are they that mourn. It's talking about the southern kingdom, for they shall be comforted. Because in the time of Isaiah, they were mourning because the city and the temple was sacked. But also that same southern kingdom during the time of Yahushua, they were also in mourning because, really because of their pretty recent history from the Maccabean period, where they were not allowed to practice their laws, and they were mourning because they were under Roman occupation, man. So when verse 4 is saying, "Blessed are they that mourn," it's not for the Christians to say that anyone who's lost a loved one can be saved, because then that basically means that anyone can be saved, because everyone has lost a loved one at one point or another. So it's not talking about everyone. Verse 4 was only for the Israelites because the Romans were not mourning at that time. And the revised Roman Empire today is also not mourning. They in fact, they are in their place of heaven, man. All of this scripture, Matthew 5, has a more strong and poignant flavor. Salaki, I'm trying to use these big words here, but they have a deeper, sharper flavor, man, when we understand what scripture says, man. So let's get verse 5. I'm going to close with this because this is the last parallel that it has for Isaiah 61, and that's really the point of this message. It says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth," man. Okay, and then that's also mentioned over in Isaiah 61. Let's get it. I believe this one was verse 1. Yeah, right here. "The Spirit of the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is upon me, because the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek." Unto the meek. So let's get the word meek. Let's get the word, or is that the one that we're on? Salakia. Yup, verse 5. The meek. Yup. The word meek here. Let's get it. That word is ainah, and that means to be poor, to be humble, to be afflicted. Okay, and it's the same meaning, pretty much the same meaning here in verse 5. Blessed are the meek, but it's in the Greek. The meek, and that word is praus, and that means mildness of disposition, gentleness of spirit, meekness. So it's a direct parallel with Isaiah, because Isaiah was warning the southern kingdom about their coming weak state, through the Babylonian captivity, right? But Isaiah was also giving them hope, saying after these 70 years of going into captivity, you would be redeemed, man. And so, Yahushua he's given that same hope here to who? To the Israelites, because who was it said like, "Blessed are the meek," those that were in a low or a destitute, a poor disposition, basically being in bad shape, being down and out, man. So Yahushua, at the time that Yahushua was here, the southern kingdom was weak, because again they were under that same Roman occupation, man. So the meek that Yahushua was referencing here in Matthew 5, the Sermon on the Mount, was always the Israelites, man. It was never for anybody else, man. He wasn't speaking to the Romans then, and he's not speaking to the Romans today either, because the Romans today are not in a low state of mind. They're still in control. He's speaking to Israel again today, because we are still in that weak disposition. We're still meek. We're still under occupation. We don't have our country, man. We don't have an army, Scripture calls us a worm, man. But that's pretty much it. I don't want to be too long-winded here, man. We just, like I said, as we go through our read with the understanding now we'll come across certain scriptures that we may have heard during our time in darkness before coming to this truth, and it's just like wow, like you you first you laugh at it because you're like, man, I can't believe I really took that lame ass understanding from the Christian church, and then you give praise and thanks to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, because now you have the understanding. Now you can read these scriptures, the poor in spirit, those that mourn, the meek. Now you can read these and understand, like, wow, he was always talking about us. Yeah, we were always on Yahweh Shai's mind, man, and we still are today, man. So the Sermon on the Mount is a very well known sermon. It's Christians love this, but they don't even know what it says, man. So hopefully this lesson has been edifying. Until the next one, I'll say shalom.